Picture it, Los Angeles, 2024.
Welcome to Out on the Lanai, the only Golden Girls podcast you're ever going to need to listen to. I'm HAlanScott / Sadie Pines.
I'm Kerri Doherty, and today we're doing another Beyond Golden Girls episode where we cover the many film and TV projects that the women did outside of the Golden Girls during the course of their illustrious careers. And today we are back. We're watching Ruthless, Horny Betty White, Uptight Rue McClanahan, and of course the fabulous Vicki Lawrence in Mama's Family, Mama for Mayor Part 2.
The dramatic conclusion. If you missed last week's episode, well, I do not believe that watching part 1 is essential to understanding the plot of part 2. I would recommend it.
I recommend it. We had some really fun clips last week
We did.
from Mama for Mayor Part 1, and also it's just such a great lead up to actually seeing Mama get elected, and now she's been elected, and now she's mayor in Part 2.
How two polar opposite vibes that each episode gives off, because as we talked about last week, in part 1, the timing of us watching part 1, it was not planned this way, but with everything that happened with Joe Biden stepping out and Kamala stepping in and all of that stuff, it all fit very much within the narrative of the excitement around Mama for mayor. You know what I mean? It all fit. But this episode has a totally different vibe in that it feels very much in line with why we should not be electing people without experiences to very important offices in this country. And so the vibes feel very different with each episode. It's like we just had a polar shift in our vibes with this episode.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the vibes in episode 1 are very much like, Mama is a person for the people, and she's speaking up against, the politicians who aren't doing anything for the people. And then in episode part 2, you're like reminded of who Mama is. And
she is the people, but also she sometimes the people should not be the ones in office.
Well, and it feels like, and Mama, and we'll get into it, Mama is, of course, overwhelmed by all this new stuff that she has to learn, but she doesn't seem very eager and willing to learn. She mostly just seems like annoyed that people want things now.
Well, she's annoyed annoyed that not even so much annoyed that people want things. Yes, she's annoyed by that. But also I feel like she's annoyed by the red tape that is involved with government. Campaigning for an office is one thing. Actually governing is a totally different thing. And there are some candidates who are made for campaigning.
Oh yeah, there are certain people who they're great candidates, and there are other people who I think are great elected officials, and they're not great candidates.
Totally. And this Mama definitely personifies that in a lot of ways, that, she's a great campaigner, maybe not a great elected official.
Yeah. We do have a lot to get into with this episode. It was so good. I loved it so much. I'm just so glad that we've been watching Mama's Family. Before we take our deep dive into it, the Rusty Anchor Happy Hour this week is a really, really fun one if you're not in the GGVIP club.
Inspired by these two episodes
where we get like a real fun kind of horny Betty. We dug through the trenches of the internet. We went to like page 9999 on Google. We found Betty White's IRL horniest moments caught on camera. So that's what we're talking about in the Rusty Anchor Happy Hour. And there's one clip that I'm like, it might be one of my favorite clips of Betty. I love it so much.
I know which one you're talking about. It's so good. But horny Betty, like we said last week, is just a perfect Betty White. And in this episode, she doesn't deliver the line, but there's a line about Betty White's character that is just so horny.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so good. We have a clip of it. It is.
Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about.
You know exactly which one
I know exactly what you're talking about. And there's a fun
good.
Golden Girls connection to it, too, if we're thinking of the same thing.
Oh, wait. Maybe. Oh, yes, there is. Yes, I think. Yes. Okay, yes.
Okay, yes. Yeah, we'll talk
I love that, listeners, you are seeing how we work in real life, in that, like, Kerri and I don't work together in like picking out the clips and stuff. We sort of delegate things. And so it's fun when we come together because we don't know what each person reacted to, which is so different from our earlier days on the podcast when we watched it together, because in a weird way we were able to sort of because we couldn't watch it and record at the same time because of like copyright reasons, obviously. And so we would always watch it and then record. And I think in some way it helped us sort of plot out what we were going to say and do. Whereas with this, it
I
almost
have
feels
no
more
idea what you're going to
fresh.
talk about.
It
Like,
feels more
yeah.
fresh. Yeah,
I
totally.
will say too, as much as I loved going over to your apartment every weekend, you'd always have like a bottle of wine and a candle, and it
Yeah.
was so much fun. But it takes, where I'm sure it only takes you 23 minutes to watch an episode of The Golden Girls, but it takes me like 49, 50 minutes
Because
because
of all the notes.
I pause and take notes. I would need to write my quotes down. And I
Yeah.
was always like barely ever paying attention to the episode because I was trying to write the quotes down as quickly as I could. So
While
I,
I'm sitting there, like when we were watching it together, I'm sitting there just being like, so last night, blah,
I'm
blah,
like,
blah,
shh,
blah,
shh, shh,
blue.
shh, 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 shh. Hold on. I need to get that. Wait, what did Sophia say? Yeah. So
Oh.
now I have the luxury of watching on my own time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, when we jump on, it's like, we both know what clips we're going to watch at that point,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
about it. And we don't
That's
talk
about it.
beforehand. We intentionally don't catch up beforehand.
Yeah, we don't really even text that much. I mean, you and I text as human beings, but like
Yeah.
we don't text about the episodes that much, which is also makes it super exciting because you have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth, and I have no idea what's going to come out of yours, and it's fun.
Speaking of not knowing what's going to come out of orifices,
Oh wow.
I know it's not going there. We have been in the trenches, Stan and I, the last 2 days of doing some really intense potty training with little Oreo.
Oh wow. I'm still training.
You are. How's it
No,
going?
it's still messes, but it's fine. We're
Still
working on it.
messies.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in lockdown
Mm.
because here's the thing, for those who are parents out there who've potty trained, maybe you know what I'm talking about, or you're like, you're totally doing it wrong. But little Oreo didn't have any interest in potty training, but like she's starting preschool soon and they're like, they can't wear diapers to preschool. So we're like, okay, we just got a potty trainer. And so there's this method I'd literally never heard of. It's called like, oh crap. I don't know. I'd never heard of it, but the idea is you basically have to treat it like Christmas break. Everybody's home, nobody's leaving the house. So little Oreo, she runs around completely naked all day. And anytime she goes to like pee or poop, we immediately bring her over to the toilet and we tell her, pee and poop goes in the potty now. It doesn't go on the floor. It doesn't go in a diaper anymore. Diapers are all done.
Do you
But
have
you have to.
carpet?
Yeah, we've put things down. Like we've put some of our dog's pee pads down in certain areas that were like with blankets over it, where we're like, I don't want her to pee on this particular piece of furniture.
Yeah.
But like our floors, they're very easy to clean. And that's it. And then you're just home. You can't go outside because she's naked. We can't put a diaper on her. And the idea is you can't go anywhere or do anything or not be right by her side
Yeah.
for like however long it takes until you get to the next phase.
Well, so where's she at? How much poop are you cleaning up?
Well, today she did a tiny little poop in the potty, and then she doesn't like she's getting prouder about, she'll march in and she'll do a pee, but she only pees a little bit, so she's going into the bathroom to pee like 100 times, but it's great because she's going on her own and this is what we want.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to shit on the potty for some reason. She just doesn't want, she wants to shit standing up. And so she didn't want to sit, and so I was like, okay, I'll tell you what, you can try pooping standing up, and then if I feel like you're pooping, I'm just going to plop you on the potty. And she went, okay.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, she went, I pooped, I squished it, and I looked down, and she literally pooped and stepped on it,
Oreo.
and I was like,
You know what's
okay.
interesting about this conversation? So when we started out, you were single, I was single. We
Yes.
lived in small apartments and we just had our lives. We just had our lives, you know, and we were eager for the future.
We were each other's lives.
We were each other's lives, and we are now in the future. We are living in the future, and we both have partners. You have a child. I have
You have a
credit
fabulous
cards.
drag persona.
Yes, I have that. Yes, I have
Beautiful
a child.
vacuum cleaners.
Vacuum. I have things. Yes, I have many things. But I do not. Anyone who's binge listening to this podcast, first off, apologize for those first 2 seasons of the Golden Girls because that audio is weird. But also, if they're binging it and they get to this point in our episode, 300 some episodes we've had, or however many episodes, they're probably like, wow, we went from her talking about a date on Saturday night to someone pooping on the ground.
Yeah.
and smashing it.
Yep.
Ew.
Wow. I know. And she
Wow.
said, and I squished it.
Wow. And I so proud too. So proud. And I
Yeah.
squished it. That's
So,
so funny.
so I don't know
That's
how many
so
days we're going to be
funny.
on potty training lockdown. I just don't know because you literally
Wow.
have to, and it has to be the two of us because one parent has to be hovering over her because you want to
Yeah.
catch it when they first start going to the bathroom and redirect them to the
Literally.
potty.
You want to
Literally,
literally catch it.
literally
Yes.
catch it. So,
It's like Sophia, like, accidentally peeing in the pot or whatever that one
mm-hmm.
episode. Like, that's
Yeah.
sort of where Oreo's at right now.
Yeah, she's just pissing in a pot like a little old
Yeah.
Sicilian lady. So yeah, but
Wow.
it really does. It feels like we're in lockdown, and
Yeah, that's so interesting.
yeah,
Well, I mean, I do want to say, I want to plug at least a little bit that if you want to, if you like listening to us and you maybe want to see us, you can watch us on, of course, Patreon. You can always get the episodes first thing on Patreon.
Patreon.com/Golden Girls Podcast.
But the following Monday afterwards, you can go to YouTube and you can watch us. And I say this now, yes, for you to watch on YouTube, but also because I got a new camera and it's like super HD. It's like super HD. And I look good, sure, but it's also very vulnerable because it shows everything. Like it shows everything. So if you ever wanted to see the real me with makeup on and lighting,
Like 4K full detail.
yeah, this is the week to go subscribe to our YouTube because I'm feeling both raw but also very Kardashian in my lighting situation because I do have lots of lighting.
Just like
Um,
Valerie Cherish.
yeah, I feel like an influencer or I feel like a YouTuber. You know what I mean? Hey
Mm.
guys, welcome back to my channel.
Well, I
Like I
mean,
have,
you're always doing the product thing like this.
yeah. Speaking of Rare
Oh yeah,
Beauty
show everybody your
lip
new
gloss.
lip gloss.
Rare Beauty. I had to hunt this down because the white lady color was not available. I call this the white lady color because it's the color that like literally every white woman is looking for, and that's why it's sold out in every single Sephora in Los Angeles. But I ordered it and I got it and I'm wearing it and it's fantastic and
And
not
it's
very sticky.
and that's what you want in a gloss. So it's Rare Beauty, and what's the color? White lady
Uh,
pink.
yeah, basically no pink neutral or something. No, nearly neutral, which I mean that's goals.
I mean,
to be nearly neutral.
that's my goal to how I hope to feel against toxic people is nearly neutral.
Well, we need to get to the episode because speaking of toxic people, Mama's kind of toxic. Mama is kind of a tyrant. Mama is a little bit of she's Trumpinian in a way in how she governs. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mama's
Mom,
rough.
Mama's rough. Yeah. Let's take a break and then we're going to jump right into it.
Oh God.
So, just to remind anybody who has, forgotten since last week because maybe you've been potty training a kid, where we left off,
Yes.
part one of Mama for Mayor. She had just been elected mayor and everybody was asleep. They basically like missed it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we come back, we are at the inauguration.
The outside shots in these two episodes, it's so rare on a multicam sitcom to see outside shots. And so when you do, even in old shows, it's super exciting. It's super it's almost jarring in a way. And this was one of them.
One thing I noticed about this, and I really hope people watch this episode. So yes, it was shot outside. It looks like they probably shot it on the studio lot, like wherever they shot the show. And these poor people, these actors, these extras, they're in the blazing sun.
Yeah.
They look so hot. And like later in the scene, Vinton's like trying to take a photo and the flash is going off and Tutwiler's like, oh, like it's blinding him. And I'm like, the sun is a million you can't even see the camera flash.
Yeah.
It was so bright for all of those people out there.
You can tell they were not in Raytown, Missouri. They were in sunny Burbank, California.
Yeah, they were in Burbank. It's like what's sweet about this is that, Mama won. I mean, this was like this was
Mama won.
nobody knew, like nobody expected Mama to win. She was really the dark horse in this race. And so it's very exciting. Her family's there. Everybody's so thrilled for her. Like everybody except obviously for Betty and Mayor Tutwiler.
But you know what's interesting about Betty Ellen not being excited about this is that, yes, she's not going to be a Nancy Reagan like she wanted to in part 1, but her mother was just elected mayor. Like, this could be her access to power. Like, she still has access to power.
She doesn't seem to look at it this way, though.
She wants more of that access to the D. You know what I'm saying?
I think I know what you're saying. Yeah.
That's the YouTube shot. That's the YouTube picture.
Yep. Over emphatic winks. I think, too, for Betty in this episode, like, Mama, in order for Mama to get to governor status, it would take so long, where Mayor Tutwiler, he's like already kind of up there, getting closer.
Could do it. He's at Pete Buttigieg level. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think she's just like not there. I want to talk about Mama's outfit for the inauguration.
With the little like fake flowery hat, which she wore. I mean, she wore that quite a bit throughout the series run. I will say that.
It reminded me of, well, first she's also wearing like knee-high stockings that are just like rolling down. And she's got this
which is a staple of Mama. That also is a staple of her over the years. Yes.
That I recognized. And she's wearing this like powder blue Easter hat that it kind of looks like an extension of her hair. Like,
it's so great.
It looks like it's like the original character design for Marge Simpson.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, there is something to the old lady, quote unquote, aesthetic that they gave Vicki Lawrence that I don't know where. I mean, I guess on the Carol Burnett show, it primarily was like, how would an old lady look? Like, it would be all about comfort and like practicality and modesty and all of those things. And Mama really personifies that, I think, on a lot of levels. There's nothing risque about what this woman's wearing. And I do think Vicki Lawrence was probably padded a little bit. And so they're like padded in terms of like in the hippage and all of that to make her look a little bit more heavy. And because I don't think she's never been, a larger woman. And so like Vicki Lawrence really had to wear the things and really not be, I mean, here she is, a beautiful 30-something, I think she was probably 30-something at that point, 30-something-year-old woman, fit, like hot, like in the prime of her life. And every single day, she is having to ugly it up, basically. I mean, Mama's not ugly. I'm not saying that, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I do. One thing I did like that Mama didn't sacrifice any of her style. She was very authentic. She was like, no, I am a mama at home and I am a mama as mayor.
She's not wearing a pantsuit. She's not trying to like be the image of what a female mayor should be. No, she is still Mama.
She is still Mama. Also, Betty had this like tan dress and hat. Her Ellen outfits, I mean, she looked absolutely gorgeous.
It fit her so well. It was flowy, but at the same time, like feminine and pretty and like just very much a woman who should be first lady of something.
Yeah, she looked absolutely gorgeous. And oh yeah, speaking of outfits, so when we get into then after the inauguration where, she takes over for Mayor Tutwiler, it's Mama's first day in the office. And in a second, I want to play a clip with her and with Rue, who's there, Aunt Fran, because she's wearing this pink number that feels very Jackie O to me.
Yeah.
And the accent that Rue did on Mama's Family, it was very much more like her native Oklahoma accent. And this is what, the pilot episode of Blanche sounded like. So if you close your eyes, you're like, oh yeah, this is season 1, episode 1, Blanche of like, girls, he's so gallant. Because remember, she didn't really have the Blanche accent down until episode 2.
Yeah. And if you think about it, this was only, I think maybe a year, maybe 2 off of before the Golden Girls started. So like, she was definitely in those early Golden Girls days here.
For sure.
Yeah. Should we play the clip?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Thelma, just look at this massive desk they have given you. I think I shall include it in my article, Harper, the first 3 days.
Well, be sure you say that it once belonged to Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln?
No, Sam Lincoln. He was the mayor that fought so hard to get Raytown on the Auto Club maps.
I mean, dumb. but yet it just sends home that message of this town is that small, is that like, insular, that like it wasn't even on the auto club's maps that you would get from AAA or whatever when you were taking a road trip.
That's what that is. I figured it was something like that. I just never
Yeah,
heard of
you
an
can
auto
still do
club.
that too. I'm an avid fan of AAA. I find they've helped me out of many situations. And if you're planning trips, you can always go there and get the little booklets and stuff. I love a AAA. I love a AAA.
You're so practical and pragmatic when it comes to certain things like Costco, vacuum cleaners,
Mm,
AAA. Like these
mm.
are all, you're really,
Yeah.
these things.
It's
Yeah.
just in my brain and how I talk that is not practical or logical ever in any cohesive linear way. It's like, I mean, listeners know I bounce off everything. I go on tangents, but my life, the practical sides of my life is very practical. Yes.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good
Yeah.
internal balance, I guess.
It makes me the creative that I am.
It really does, doesn't it? Well, okay. Something I love about this episode and something I love about sitcoms in the 70s and 80s. So everybody's all excited to see Mama's new
Hmm.
digs, her office. She wants them all out. She's like, I have very important work to do.
Yeah.
And then what I love is sitcoms back then, they treated everything like theater, where they would let long periods of time go by when an actor
Mhm.
wasn't speaking but doing purely physical things.
Yeah.
And we get like 90 seconds of Mama,
You
quote,
know,
doing important work.
I was hoping you were going to go in this direction because, again, this just speaks to us not planning things or not talking to each other as we do these things. In that struck me too, that like, it's so rare, especially on television these days, to have silence in that way. I mean, silence in
Hmm.
general is something that, if it's in a television show, that's just like prime time that they don't want to give up that kind of airtime for silence.
They
And
don't want to lose people, right? People
yeah,
have short attention spans, so you got to constantly have your characters talk and you can't have silence. But this was like
whereas for
90
us,
seconds of silence.
even for us on this podcast to like point out that a clip of to play a clip, which we're about to play, of essentially silence I mean, you'll be able to see what Mama's doing if you watch us on Patreon or YouTube, or if you watch the episode, but which you can watch on Tubi and stuff. Where did you watch the episode? Did you buy
Oh,
it?
I bought them on
Yeah, I bought them
Amazon.
too. Yeah, same. But yeah, and you should buy them on Amazon. Support Vicki
Oh,
Lawrence.
Pluto. I think they're on Pluto, maybe.
Pluto. Yeah, my movie's on Tubi. Pluto is the other one that you can watch stuff on. Plug for my movie.
I was going to say,
But
great plug.
I didn't even know until people started messaging me, to be honest. But like that we're gonna play a clip of like essentially silence is in and of itself, like it points out how rare it is on television these days. Can you imagine an episode of 30 Rock or whatever that would
No.
have that much? The only show that I could see there being sitcom, that I could see there being silence would maybe be The Office, and it would be because of because of an action that would be happening. But I can't think of another show that would even allow it.
I don't think they would do it for 90 seconds, though.
Yeah.
90 seconds is a long time. So, for
Yeah.
those who don't have an opportunity to watch, the joke is that Mama's like, I got lots of important work to do. And then they leave and she like sharpens a pencil and, makes a little paper airplane. But
Yeah.
it's incredible acting. It's so good. So, we're just going to play just a little snippet of it because,
Yeah.
again, I didn't want to overwhelm everybody with uncomfortable silence, but it's
Yeah.
so great. It's so great if you're watching.
Mayor Harper.
Obsessed. We should talk about the voice of that woman.
We do have to talk about the voice of the woman. How long did it take you to figure out who
Immediately.
Mama's suck? Okay. So Mama's.
I didn't remember. I will say I didn't remember. Like when we picked this episode, I didn't remember that this actress was in it. But then as soon as I saw her, because again, I'm watching this like before we start recording, because I like to be real, and I was like, oh my God.
All right. Well, we're going to say it, and then we're going to play a quick moment of her.
Yeah.
So Mama has the mayor's office's longtime secretary, Felicia, who is played by Stanley Spornak's Slurpee-loving cousin, Magda, aka Marion Mercer. She's so good.
She is so, like, you know what's interesting? She must have been typecast as someone who plays really sort of like authoritative, tough women. You know what I mean? Because I mean, in these two roles, Magda and this role, she's very much like, you didn't do this. Why didn't you do that? You know what I mean? Like, she's very much like opinionated.
She has a very commanding presence. She also reminded me, like, I could see her being on SNL in sort of like the Lorraine Newman, Jane Curtin era. But and I love her sort of transatlantic accent. That is it's very proper, and her voice is like Andie MacDowell to me. It's like butter. I love it.
I saw her once at a restaurant. She
Did you talk
has
to her?
I didn't talk to her, no, but I saw her and she's gorgeous.
I
But
believe it.
she has kind of like a B. Arthur energy to her, in that, like, when she's speaking, there's a commanding presence. There's a you know where to look in the room when she's talking. And I wouldn't necessarily say that about a Betty White or a Rue McClanahan or actresses like that, who are a bit more subtle in sort of how they present themselves. Whereas she, because of her height, of course, but also just her voice and the way she delivers a line, is just, you're looking at her.
Yeah. We got to play a clip. I'm so excited for everybody else to see Magda.
I do hope I'm not disturbing you.
No, I was just straightening up my desk here, Felicia.
I see. Well, the council meeting's in a few minutes, so I thought we'd better go over your schedule.
Okay, shoot.
All right, after the council meeting, there's lunch where you'll be discussing the Simcox Amendment and the Mahoney Bill. Which one do you want to give priority to?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Right. Now, after lunch, Councilman Bigelow wants to review Proposition 32. Is that okay with you?
Proposition 32. Well, I've been thinking about that.
Yeah, she's like, did you remember this? Did you do this? Did you read this? And then at the end of the scene, she proceeds to, like, basically give Mama massive stacks of paper. Again, the red tape. Massive stacks of paper for Mama that she was supposed to go over before she basically became mayor or whatever. And it just reinforces, again, my golden takeaway from last week, register to vote. It just goes to show you that, like, you want to get people who are going to put in maybe the work that it takes to be mayor or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Mama certainly going into it, you know, she was already, I mean, they didn't really give her a fighting chance. Like how is she supposed to do all that paperwork? I also feel like Felicia must have been.
What a name for this one. I like, Felicia seems like such a modern name to me.
Yeah.
That, like, to see an actress who was already probably middle-aged, maybe even beyond that at that time, to be named Felicia in like 1983 or 84, it felt a little like, that's an interesting name choice.
Yeah, it did feel like definitely more of a modern name for that time for like a younger girl. But I feel like Felicia's like, I could do that job so much better. Like, if they had just given me the job. That's got to be so frustrating with her going like, and what did you think about all these things? And Mom is like, I don't really know. And you're just like, oh God, she must have just been like, digging her nails into her nylons. That's what I would have been doing.
You're basically describing Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State under Barack Obama. Oh, we can laugh now. It's okay to laugh.
We can laugh and cry at the same time.
Yeah.
So then we have the council members meeting.
Oh, this was feisty. And this is where you see Mama is not prepared.
You really see that she's not prepared. So it's like 8 men and women. There's this like really funny runner with Mama trying to learn the rules of banging the gavel. It's like bang once for everyone to sit, twice to start the meeting, 3 times for everyone to stand. And she just starts like messing with them. And like there's a lot of like fun physical comedy. And at one point, I don't know if you heard this, when she was like Vicki Lawrence was like banging the gavel and getting them to stand and sit, a woman in the audience goes, "Ha ha, well, all right." Did you hear that?
I heard a lot. There was a woman who coughed in one clip, in the clip of the silent part.
The silence. Like, people were coughing up a storm in that.
It's so
clip.
Interesting. And I mean, anyone listening to the podcast, which the vast majority of you are, you must have picked up on it too. That
yeah, you heard the coughing.
And that's what's so interesting. When you're watching it, you don't necessarily pick up on that, but when you hear it, you do. I always find that fascinating.
Yeah. Haha, well, all right. I was like, whoa, you didn't just say haha, then you said, well, all right. Like,
I want to be with her. I recently just saw Deadpool, and I was sitting next to a man who was commenting quite a bit throughout the film. He was there by himself, and he was just commenting at the film. And at first I thought I was going to be annoyed by it, but then I was just like, you're right. That's stupid.
That's so funny. Stan and I have a tradition, and we do it with Stan's brother as well.
Who is also delightful.
He's very, very delightful.
The Stan family is fantastic.
Yes, the Stan family is fantastic. And we started doing these things during like the early days of the pandemic called PNS movie nights. And what it stood for was pause and shit movie nights, where we would do exactly what you're talking about. The idea is, okay, it's going to take us about 3 hours to get through this movie. And we find a movie it's not so bad like The Room bad, the Sharknado bad, but you find a good, like, big budget studio movie, whatever, or like a rom-com that's like really bad. And then you just pause, and then you shit on it, and then you talk about it and then you hit play. And then when something pause, no. What did we just, oh God, it was the latest Mission Impossible movie. Oh, that's such a pause and shit. That's such a pause and shit.
Is it bad?
It's not great. There are a few action sequences that are really good. And I'm a huge fan of the Mission Impossible movies of Christopher McQuarrie, who, I don't know what happened, but there were so many sequences, and sorry, this is the last thing, and then we'll get back to the episode. There's so many sequences where there were like 4 or 5 people around, like in a room, and it was an exposition train of them all, like pages upon pages of information of just these exposition dumps of people being like, and the entity, we know that its AI capabilities are pretty bad. And then the next person jumps in and they're like, and therefore and it was just like, oh my God. It was just like all these people finishing each other's sentences, because that was the only way to make it a little interesting, because otherwise it would have been one person delivering 8 pages of information. Anyway, I thought it was a big old PNS. It's a fun experience, though.
That sounds like a great experience. I don't have a pause and shit experience. However, I do have one of my favorite movie-going experiences of my entire life was when I saw What Lies Beneath in theaters in St. Louis, Missouri. And I was with my best friend Blythe back then, and we were seeing this movie. And there was the pivotal part. If you've ever seen the film, it's a fantastic film. I highly recommend people see it. But there's a moment where Michelle Pfeiffer, everyone thinks, no spoilers, but I'm not even giving away the ending here. But there's a moment in which you think she's dead in a bathtub, but she's not. And she comes out of the water, and she does that, whatever. And when Michelle Pfeiffer, the incredible, should have an Academy Award at home, but doesn't, and I'm still angry about her not being nominated for Batman Returns, comes out of that water and does that. There was a woman sitting across from us, a very large set woman, who was so shocked and was so scared at that moment. She literally lifted herself up out of her seat, fell into the aisle, and then screamed in a way in which the entire audience heard her yell, "Oh no, that bitch didn't!" And everyone started to laugh and applaud And it was just like it was just joy. It was just joy at Michelle Pfeiffer being alive, which I still every day am experiencing joy for Michelle Pfeiffer's life. And her perfumes. You should get her perfumes. They're delightful. I love her perfumes. I have a few.
I didn't know that she made perfumes.
Henry Rose. Henry Rose.
That's what a movie theater experience should be like.
Yes,
and
I agree.
Where Borat made My Wife popular, In What Lies Beneath, Michelle Pfeiffer made Your Wife popular.
I did not see where you were going with that, and I'm glad I didn't. We need to take a break, and we will be right back.
Do we?
Yes, we don't know. Maybe Mama's going to be in a bathtub and bust out and be like, "Your wife."
Oh no, it's My Wife.
My wife.
Did I say Your Wife?
I don't even know.
I don't know. Borat did My Wife. She did Your Wife. And we're back, and I don't even know where we were at. Okay, so we were at the council meeting.
Yeah, the council meeting. And these council members, I don't believe, it was hard for me to believe that any of them are actually elected.
Because they were just, did you find them insufferable?
Yeah, they aren't the type of people that people would vote for.
I mean, I don't know. They seem to at least know how to do the job.
Yeah, or they know how to complain about the job. Or Aunt Mama, I'll say that.
I also noticed there were two men sitting next to each other, and they kept showing them in like a two-shot of the two of them. Both men had glasses, and both men had ties with horses on them. Oh. Is that like a Mama's Family Raytown thing, or was that just a weird coincidence?
That's a weird coincidence. I don't remember anything about horses. Other than when I think of horse, I think of Hilary Swank, which is horrible of me to say, but that is where my brain goes.
Well, it was incredibly distracting for me, the horse ties. There was also a fun moment where, you know, they're saying things like, you know, and this is now on the floor. And Mom is like looking on the floor. Yeah. And they call her the chair, and she's like, well, you're a sofa. Like,
my favorite moment in this scene is when one of the dudes, they all are the same to me, yells out,
because they're all wearing horse ties.
He's the parliamentarian. And Mama goes, I don't care what religion he is. I just want to know, which again, I don't want to make this is not political at all, but I could not help but see comparisons to someone like Trump, who just did not understand certain aspects of how our government works because he had never done it before. He was a business person, which, yeah, whatever. But like,
didn't care to learn.
Well, I'm not going to go down any of those roads here. But what I'm saying is that, like, you know, when you have someone who doesn't understand sort of the general process of, you know, the three branches of government and how it all works and XYZ and all of those things, like that to me is a warning sign.
Yeah, it's a bit of a red flag. You know, if you're going to have someone, you know, I feel like an AOC was the perfect example of someone who was like, I'm a bartender, but you know what? I'm going to learn and I'm going to pick it up and I'm really eager to learn. And then you just learn and you do the job.
I don't think you have to. I firmly believe, I think college is a waste of time. Go if you need it, but I think college is a waste of time. I don't think your background necessarily dictates your intelligence. What I'm saying is that, like, if someone clearly displays a lack of knowledge or interest in the thing in which they are seeking to do, that is then a problem. It's like,
yeah,
I mean, it's like anything. It's like, you know, it's anyone faking it till they make it. Sometimes you can't really fake these kind of things. And in this situation, Mama was really kind of faking it, not intentionally. She wasn't doing it out of malice, because I do feel like she ran both because of the excitement, but also because she was genuinely frustrated with things. And she comes from a really good place. It's just that she was maybe in a little bit over her head and not knowing the full thing. And she just kind of got roped into a lot of different things that were problems. And so I'm not like saying she's bad for what she's doing. No. I'm just saying, like, the situation then got a lot worse.
And she did, and she was sort of running on a platform of we need to help our seniors. And she
Yeah.
did. She tried to like pass a law where the buses had to drop off the seniors at their
Yeah.
houses so they wouldn't. So she was trying to push some stuff for seniors, which is sort of
Yeah.
that was like kind of what she ran on. But
Yeah. Which also those things should like we need those things just like
Mhm.
we need like, you know, certain healthcare issues or certain things like we need all the like she had her heart in the right place. It was just that the mechanisms, it's like what Hillary Clinton used to say, which I always found so interesting. Again, this is not being political. What I'm saying is that like she always said that like you can say a lot of things when you campaign, but for her, she was like, I need to explain to you how they get done or how I'm going to get them done realistically, politically, in terms of how our government works. And like they would say to her, like, oh, can you end fracking? And she's like, the president can't do that. We can pass laws to prevent these things, but I can't just go into Montana and say, stop, you know, like, and so those little red tapey type things, that's not sexy to talk about. It's not sexy to campaign on.
Yeah.
But you want someone smart enough to know, oh, I can't do that. That's
Right.
not
I'm not going to make an
constitutional.
empty promise. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Mama, I mean, after a few days, I mean, there's a garbage strike, a transit walkout, you know,
The worst
she,
things too.
the
You never
press
want
is
those
upset.
things.
People are
Yeah.
picketing. I
Yeah.
mean,
But for this small town that didn't have an auto club location on a map, those residents are surely involved. Like they are very active.
they are, yeah, if they weren't active in politics before, they are now. There's a great moment. Mama is so unliked that when she's leaving her office to like to go to some daycare opening and she ends up like throwing dirt on the kids
Yeah.
ultimately. But her family, they have to create a human shield around
Yeah.
her and they all have to like scuttle out of the office. And it's funny that like and Mama is throughout all of this, she's less worried about the bad job that she's doing and she's just more annoyed with the people in town and the council members
Mhm.
that she has to work with. And then we get a moment that we're going to play. So all of this is going on. Betty White hasn't really been around, but
Yeah.
then there's a scene where she's in bed and she's awoken with
Oh.
news on the radio that Mama's up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. And I wanted to play this moment because I know on the Golden Girls, we always joked about how the women always went to bed and then woke up and came out or like came out of surgery in full makeup.
Mhm.
But Betty is in full glam when
Fully
she
glam.
wakes up in the morning. It's like that scene in Bridesmaids where Kristen Wiig is like
Yeah.
in bed and John Hamm is sleeping. She wakes up, she goes in the bathroom, does full makeup, and comes and
Uh-huh.
creeps back into bed. This
Mhm.
is Betty, full face. She's got gloss, the sleeping mask. Anyway, she's
The Rare
so
Beauty gloss. That's what she has. The Rare
yes,
Beauty.
she has the Bare Beauty. Go ahead, give it a little product placement. So let's play this moment to see sexy Betty.
Morning, it's K-Ray News. At the top of the news today, Raytownians move to impeach Mayor Harper. Apparently, the stress of the strikes have taken their toll on Mayor, as evidenced yesterday at a groundbreaking ceremony for the new daycare center. Mayor Harper yelled at 4 preschoolers, throwing dirt at one and calling another a loudmouth brat.
Mama, I think she's in over her head.
Added to this, the Sons of Lithuania are picketing City Hall protesting a joke allegedly told by Mayor Harper concerning several Lithuanians trying to change a light bulb. In other news today,
No, she's over her head. Sweetheart, wake up.
What?
Daddy, we got to do something.
Oh, please, not again.
Horny Betty.
I mean, to be honest, we're lucky the man is still alive.
I mean, truly, he should be counting his blessings for that. I also low-key want to know what that Lithuanian joke is.
I don't know that I do.
No, I do because I don't. While I know Mama could have a dirty mouth, and I know she probably had some things up her sleeve. I do think I've never heard her say like dirty or mean jokes like that. So I would want to know, like, how would Mama deliver a joke like that?
Yeah, I mean, you know Mama better than I do.
Yeah.
I was just really glad that Betty didn't bang that dude to death like she does all the other men that she sleeps with.
But yeah, this is the turning point. This is where Ellen and the former mayor like recognize we need to help her. We need to step in and help Mama because this is not, she's in real deep doo-doo here.
This is what I liked about Betty's character, and tell me if this is like consistent with the series, but you know, she wasn't on board with Mama being mayor for selfish reasons, but then once she realizes she's in trouble, she's like, all right, I'm gonna put all that shit aside and I'm gonna step in and help her. Does that
I wouldn't say that necessarily rings true for the character because the kids are, with the exception of Vinton, the kids are kind of shit to Mama and other people, especially Ellen, and I'm forgetting Carol Burnett's character's name, but Carol Burnett's character, and like
Eunice?
Thank you. I'm so bad with names.
That's okay.
But like they are kind. I mean, they have soft spots, sure, but like I wouldn't say Ellen. This is a trope that is necessarily true of Ellen.
I mean, look, there's also, I mean, it's unlikely because we're seeing just the two of them alone in that conversation, but I don't know, also somewhere maybe deep down they're like, we got to go help her because we know that it's the way to get your job back so that you can become governor someday.
That part too.
You know.
Although we need to, at the end of the episode, there's an interesting moment that happens that I'm like, that it should not be a law, but we'll talk about that.
Okay, we'll talk about that. So Betty and Tutwiler show up. Mama, of course, is like, thinks they're there to gloat, but they're like, we want to help her, especially since people keep throwing rocks through her window. She has started collecting them in her desk drawer.
Yeah.
Remember people would do that? They would like throw rocks with a note or like with a brick through the window.
Now they just send weird DMs.
Yeah, now people just, I was even going to say cyberbully, but even that feels dated. Don't cyberbully, by the way.
Someone sent me a DM yesterday and they misspelled the gay slur, the F slur, if you will, but in a way that was so interesting. It was FAGGHOT.
Huh.
Which I was like, you're close. You literally are one letter incorrect. However, would that then be pronounced fag hot? Fag hot.
Maybe it was a compliment.
Are you flirting with me?
I think that person was.
They weren't flirting. They weren't flirting. I did not engage. I do not engage in those things. I rarely see those things. Sometimes they use tricky words to get past my filter things, which is probably what that person was doing.
Yep.
So I will now add that word to the filter words.
Yeah. Didn't think you had to, but here we are.
Mm-hmm.
So so Mama as mayor, she sucks, right? So many bad things are happening, but throughout all of this, it has given Tutwiler a chance to kind of reflect. And he's like, you know, Mama, you've kind of taught me that being a great leader means you have to be a human first and a politician second. And he's like, and I was kind of sucking at that first thing. So, you know, if anything, she kind of like made an impact on him and he ends up becoming mayor again. So even though Mama was a shitty mayor, she in turn turned Tutwiler into a better mayor.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you lose the thing you took for granted, you realize how important it was to you. And he's in that situation and he's ready to step back in. And Mama, she didn't do a lot, but she did read up on a few things. She found out a clause that can help her in this situation.
I know, and it's like the one thing that she actually knows and can rattle off, like, you know, Section 5A of Amendment 2B.
Because she goes to the city council and she's all like, I'm stepping down, I'm gonna give it back. I'm gonna give my seat back to the whatever.
Yeah.
And the one dude in the room says the thing that everyone at home is watching, you can't do that. And then because of a creative writer in Los Angeles, they were literally like, well, actually, this town is crazier than you think because there's a weird law, like one of those laws that say donkeys can't cross the road on Sundays or whatever. There's a weird law that says that if someone elected mayor has a family emergency or something because of XYZ or blah, 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 they can step down and it goes to the person who they ran against or whatever the fuck. I forget.
Yeah. And so they're like, well, you got us there. So Mayor Tutwiler ends up getting the job. There's also a really funny line where when Mayor Tutwiler is kind of helping her clean up her mess and he's giving her advice on things, she goes, a guy who knows most of the poop can lead the troop.
Which, you know, it's also another parallel between this episode and what's happening in real life right now, which I find very interesting.
Yes.
Mayor Tutwiler gets to be mayor without receiving the majority of votes from the people, meaning that what I'm referring to is Kamala not participating, even though she was technically on the ballots in the primary because she was his vice president. Still, she was not the leading candidate, so she's likely going to be the Democratic nominee without ever participating in a Democratic primary, which is kind of similar to how Mayor Tutwiler got his job as well. So there's so many similar. We are living, I mean, history repeats itself, clearly.
History repeats itself.
Yeah.
Things that happened in Raytown, Missouri are happening now in the big old Washington, D.C. all these years later.
All these years later.
I loved so after Mayor Tutwiler gets his job back, there's a fun moment where Mama tries to leave with the gavel in her bag, but it's kind of heavy, and it reminds me of when Sophia was trying to steal all the silverware from the Maltese Falcon Club.
Yeah, Mama and Sophia are very similar. What I do love is that when she goes home and she realizes that, like, because she said she needed to get home, her emergency was her family because they could not survive without her. And then she gets home and the house is a mess. And yes, I get that. I get that fully. She's needed there, very much so.
Yeah, she keeps everything together. And honestly, that's like more her speed. That's more her style anyway. She's obviously stressed at her house a lot, but like that was way too much to put on her. She tried, kind of.
She tried. For like, it seems like a couple of weeks maybe, and then, well, less than 2 we know. So like, she tried, you know?
She gave it the old...
Hee-ho.
2-week college try. But that was the episode. And yeah, Mama's Family is a blast.
Such a fun two-parter. You're going to see more Mama's Family coming up in the future. Trust us. And let us know also if you want us to watch, if you have any episodes of Mama's Family that you would love for us to cover that are very much either Rue or Betty centered or focused or Jason or whatever it is. And we'll gladly add that to the roster of episodes we're going to do.
Yeah.
But should we take a break and come back with a golden takeaway?
Let us
pray.
Let us pray. I was going to say the same thing. Do they do that at Mormon churches too?
I think probably. I don't really know. And we're back with our golden takeaway, which is a nugget of truth or inspiration that you can apply to your life or the lives of our listeners. Miss Doherty Bush, what is your golden takeaway from this episode?
Mine, when we talk about parallels about what's going on in the country and in politics right now, my golden takeaway is I have an immense amount of respect for people like Mama and other people who realize that they're not up for public service jobs anymore, and they have the humility to recognize that the will of the people is greater than their own ego, and they can step aside.
Yeah, I agree. That's another parallel too with Biden now. Wild these 2 episodes. Wow, we are basically a news podcast at this point.
We really are. Somebody get Wolf Blitzer and Rachel Maddow on the phone. Call the crooked media guys, because we've got our finger on the pulse of the past.
Yeah, but just please don't rely on us for news. Like if there's a big breaking news story, don't come to the Out on the Lanai feed and expect us to be covering it. That'd be horrible. Can you imagine? So there was a person in a race who did a thing and then they dropped out.
I freaked out today, speaking of news, because some dinky ass website, I don't even know why it was recommended to me, said something like it was like remembering Kurt Russell, and I was like, oh my God, Kurt Russell died? What's happening? And like, no, it was just clickbaity. It was just like a retrospective of his career. And I was like, how dare you?
How
anyway,
dare
we would
them.
never do anything that irresponsible.
No. But next week we'll be remembering Meryl Streep.
Don't say that.
I'm sorry. It was a joke. I had to.
Don't do it. Okay, what's your golden takeaway? Knock
My
on
golden
wood.
takeaway from this episode is I want more people to be like the citizens of Raytown, Missouri. And I'm not saying for them to elect someone who is not prepared to do a job in public office. What I'm saying is I want them to be as active with their local governments and their local politicians as it's seemingly the people of Raytown are. They are so engaged. They are so informed. They are reading the newspapers. They are subscribing to newspapers, which I actively encourage every single person to subscribe to the digital edition of your local paper. Subscribe to a newspaper. We need to keep that industry alive, but also it's so vital to giving you the information that you need both on a local level, but also on a state and a national level. So subscribe to a newspaper, get that Sunday edition, and read, but also be engaged as the residents of Raytown are, because they are active.
Yeah, they are Activia. They are so active. Well,
Activia.
everyone. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. This has been another episode of Out on Lanai. Thank you all so much for listening. And remember, if you want to join the GGVIP Club and get tons of bonus content, ad-free episodes, bonus weekly episodes, video versions on day one, visit patreon.com/Golden Girls Podcast.
Yeah, and we're a part of MOM, Moguls of Media. So go subscribe to Mommy Plus. And you can also follow us on the socials at Golden Girls Pod on the Turwit, Out on the Lanai official on the Gram Insta, Golden Girls Pod on the Bookface, and I am HAlanScott / Sadie Pines on everything.
You could have said thing every, and then it would have been...
Oh, yeah, that would have been, not that talented.
No, you're this close. You're this close.
So close. That's my career. You basically just described my career.
You're this close. Oh, I love your Wendy mug. I'm Squid on Twitter and Squidsy on Instagram. And if you want to do something else nice for the podcast, you can leave us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast. That really does go a long way, even if it's just a few little words. We really appreciate it.
And if you do go leave a comment on our Insta and you're still listening at this point, let me know how I look in HD. And that's how I'll know you were listening until the end.
Who listens to the end?
Be kind, rewind. Oh, subscribe to that YouTube channel. It's very good. Remember,
as always,
stay golden.
Stay golden. You know, I was a PA on the movie Be Kind, Rewind. One of my first jobs, I had to drive Michelle Gondry's car in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. It was like a Camry or something. Anyway, for anybody who listens this far, you got that little fun tidbit that Michelle Gondry drove a Camry.
Definitely go subscribe to that YouTube channel. It's really good. It's all about old Hollywood and movies and stuff. It's fantastic. And I love the person who does it. Go subscribe. Be Kind, Rewind. Bye.
Out on the Lanai is not endorsed by Whit Thomas Harris Productions, Touchstone Television, Disney, or any of its subsidiaries. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only.
All names, pictures, audio, and video clips of the Golden Girls are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective trademark and/or copyright holders.